Morby Methods, putting debt on properties and doing cool things with debt that most investors don't really know about or know how to do.
Live in Monterey, California with my partner, Robert Harden. What are we going to talk about, Rob, today?
We can talk about Morby Methods. We can talk about putting debt on properties.
Correct. So we're going to try to touch on the more higher level so you can think about not just seller financing. Sometimes there's a creative way for us to structure the deal. We move the debt around. So first of all, let's talk about you. So where you're from, what's your hunting ground right now?
Yes.
What do you do?
I'm in Portland, Oregon right now, and I do most of my investing in Oregon and Southwest Washington. I have some properties as far north as Tacoma, Washington, and then I have a one-off in Louisiana.
Okay.
But all the other stuff I own is in Oregon and Southwest Washington. Live just south of Portland. It's like 30 minutes south of Portland in the suburbs. All my investing is in Oregon, Southwest Washington. I really love the market that I'm in. It's close by. As a contractor,
Right.
I don't like doing stuff very far away because
You have your crew,
have my
and locals, or your backyard, you know how to hunt them. I'm a backyard investor as well. I think there's definitely a benefit of like you can utilize your crew, you can rely on them. I'm sure you have multiple crews, sometimes you work on multiple projects. It sounds like your business is mostly fix and flip?
I do some fix and flip. Most of the stuff I'm purchasing right now are subject to deals. So we're taking over mortgages. Some of the ones we have a lot of equity in, we're refinancing them out, just like the BRRRR strategy. But most of the stuff we're buying is subject to, or we're buying stuff at a deep discount and refinancing the debt.
Okay, now let's get to the fun part, right? So because I now know you do a lot of deals, you buy them creatively, meaning that you rarely have to go out and get hard money loan.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So give us a couple examples on how did you structure your deal?
When we're going to do a Morby method, we do them a couple different ways, but the way that we like doing them the most is where we're purchasing like something subject to or something that has a lot of equity. We're giving the seller a small down payment, anywhere from $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 down, and they're recording a second note on the property in favor of the seller, and then we're bringing in a lender that refinances it. So it's not a lot of money out of pocket in the front end. So for example, a deal structure that we did recently, purchase price is around $300,000. What we did is we gave the seller $25,000 at close of escrow, and we recorded a second note on the property for their equity of like $275,000.
Oh, I see. So it's mostly free and clear. They all.
Yeah, you can do it free and clear, or you can structure it other ways to where, well, here's a real example of one I have under contract right now. In Spokane, Washington right now, I have a seller that has a first position lien of $117,000.
That was what? Just a regular standard mortgage?
Regular mortgage.
Fund
We had a trouble. Yep, he was behind on his mortgage, and he got it reinstated. You know, we came in after the reinstatement was done. So reinstatement's already happened. He's already made his 3 months payment.
So he caught up the loan.
Yep, exactly.
No longer in default.
No longer in default, but he does have a $117,000 first position. House is worth, we're purchasing it for $385,000. So as his value is probably right about $350,000. It's been on market at $385,000 for a long time, but no one wants it.
Yeah, no one's providing $385,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so as this value is, it says $350,000. That's it.
Yeah, it's probably about $350,000 what it really is worth. So we're gonna take over the first at $117,000. We're gonna give him $20,000 at close of escrow. So to close out the transaction one,
Right.
$20K to him. It has rehab work of around $15,000 to $20,000. So we're budgeting $20K for rehab. We also have, in Washington, we have excise tax as well as closing fees. And excise is like, on this purchase, it'll be just under $4,000 for the excise. And then closing's about $4,000.
Right.
And we also have assignment fees that we need to pay the team on.
So you come from a wholesaler? What's that? How do you come from?
Oh yeah, this is from one of my buddies in that market. So I do all JV. So like all my
joint
stuff,
venture.
people are bringing me deals. So in this situation, the JV partner's gonna get 10. I'm paying myself 10 on acquisition.
There you go. You got to pay for your work.
Got to pay for the work. And then I'm also gator lending my own deal. So I'm going to bring in the $80K to make the purchase. When we close out the transaction, I'm going to get a second lien position behind the first of my $80K. So now in the property, we have 117 plus my 80. We'll just round it up to 120 on the first because it makes it easier math. So 120 on the first, 80 for me that I'm bringing in. So $200K worth of debt. Yep.
Okay, is this like transitional covering the rehab costs? And
Exactly.
Right.
So yeah, so my gator money comes in, closes out the transaction, gives the seller his 20, gives me enough money to do the rehab, pays the JV partner, pays myself an acquisition fee.
Right.
And now on the property, we have two notes. One for the first, 120, one for me for 80, so $200K worth of debt. So after we close, now before we close, we're simultaneously applying for a loan because we're gonna refinance out that 20,
You want to get
the 200K.
Get the money back.
Exactly. So when the refi hits, it'll pay off the 120.
Right.
It'll also pay off my 80K note. note.
Low.
So I have new debt on the property of $200,000 on a house that's worth $385,000.
Right.
So now I have a new mortgage payment that's very low,
Very low.
at $200,000. It'll turn into a long-term rental, so I can get all my money back and pay everybody.
Right. So when you refi, that's when you pay the equity back the seller deserves.
Exactly.
To.
No, he doesn't get, he actually, this is the best part. So he'll have a note on the property behind, after we refi it, they'll have a note for his equity of $227,000. But to secure him in the meantime, because it's kind of scary. So what's happening right now is that when I close out the first transaction, I don't want his debt to be on there because the lender won't refi.
Yeah, they won't. They won't be in the first position. So he's kind of unprotected temporarily.
No, because what I'm doing is I'm
going
to secure him on another property. So I'll record a note on another property so that I can do the refi. Now, what I could do, and you could do the same thing if you're following us,
right?
is that
So
you
I'm going to pause for a second.
Yes,
so when
please.
you do that, when you refi, when you put his equity out, secure him on another house is that you have equity with, obviously you own multiple houses. So that's what what we call it with that. It's called cross-collateralization.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the seller is still secure, but not in this asset you're trying to refi it out because the bank won't allow it. You have it secure on another asset that you have equity portion. So he's still secure during this transitional period and then come back later to secure on the
You have two ways you can do it. One, you can secure him on another property, which you have to do with this type of transaction. You're going to secure him on another property, do the refi. Now, if you want to get some more cash out, you could take and do a higher cash out. Like on a 385, you probably could get like
15-20%.
probably 300,000 is what you could put a new lien on there for 300K. So you could do it two ways. You could leave his note on your other property, or after you do the refi, bring the note back. Now, the one thing about bringing it back over is that now the LTV is like you'll have a 300 first, then you'll have a second for 225. So basically you have 500.
100% leverage.
Oh my God, you'll be at like $530,000 worth of debt on a 385 house, which is not a good spot to put them in. But if you're upfront about it in the beginning and maybe you cross-collateralize, maybe you leave another note on another property so you can kind of split the note up. So you could do it that way, or you could
you're
just
not over leveraged.
yeah, so you're not over leverage.
Right.
Or you could just refi it out of the 200, bring his note back over and slightly over leverage it with, it all depends on how much leverage you want to put at it and how much money you want to take out.
Wow, so that's what we call the Morby Method. Basically, the seller coming back become a second position lien holder to replace. So which is a beautiful thing because then often you can replace the down payment that was locked in, or when we put down the regular conventional closing, you have to put 15-20%. We come back, fill that the hole.
Yes, no, it's a great way to buy properties, get all your money back. That's what I'm really focused on moving forward.
Right.
I want to get all my money back to where I don't leave very much money in a deal.
Right.
Use that same funds, go do another deal.
Rinse and repeat.
Do another deal.
Right.
100%.
Wow, that's a wonderful way to buy houses. You don't need hard money lender. You just need to find a house that have a lot of equity to work with. And you can replace the debt, move them around, ship them around to get it to the next deal. Okay, so that's Morby Method. Now let's talk a little bit, kind of transition into novation. What's novations?
Novation is simply when you're replacing a contract with another contract. When you're novating a property, the paperwork's a little bit different. We prefer to do novations is slightly different than the traditional way. The traditional way is to have a contract that replaces another one at escrow.
It sounds kind of sketchy.
It sounds really sketchy.
The first time I heard about it, I was like, okay, they keep switching the turn. I feel like the market keeps shifting based on the situation.
Yes,
That's how I feel about it.
Yes.
So I like the new way of doing novations. Let's talk about that.
The reason why the other way is a little bit sketchy and it's scary is because the seller can come back to you and renegotiate. So that's the biggest thing. So when you don't have like a clear-cut transfer of title, so that's why novations are, some people get into problems with that. Yeah.
Right.
If you have a seller that they're like, hey, wait a second, I'm not okay with you making 50 grand and 100 grand. I want some of that. Then they'll come back and renegotiate.
Right.
So the better way to do it is to do, call it a subtail. So we'll purchase the property subject
to and bring it to retail.
Yep, 100%. So that is a better way to do it. So like in a transaction like that, you'll still do a sub to purchase, and then the seller, to secure their equity, what they're getting in the deal, you're going to give them a second note behind the first. So you give them a second note on the property so that when it sells, they get paid out at close of escrow.
Okay, that is pretty awesome. So you did take title during the process. That's how you're keeping yourself protected. So there's no talking about, oh, all of a sudden the seller realized, the house looked prettier. I don't feel like signing that paper at the closing. That would be pretty awkward.
Either they don't want to sign the paper or they go, hey, you know what? This house is really nice. I think I'd like to just move back into it.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a second, how am I secure? Because they own the property. I'm in a bad spot. So you got to be really careful with stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So novation. So I remember remember last time you explained to me that when you do a novation, the way it's taking title, right? So there's a multiple way. Sometimes you close two file, you just kind of take the title up front. There's another way, I guess depends on seller's comfort level. Have you ever done like what we call the executive contract that way as well?
Yeah,
Talk
land
about that.
contract. I've only have one property I've purchased on land contract, so I like selling a land contract. Not a big fan of purchasing a land contract is the fact that title's not changing. But yes, you can do it that way. So I use Michael Kim on all my deals. So
He's
Mike,
pretty awesome.
hopefully Mike Kim is hearing this.
I know he's hiding from this podcast because he's shy, but I'm going to put his contact information in this podcast so people can reach out to him. He did a complicated transaction. You need a different kind of mind to coordinate things around, and he's great with that. Thank you for sharing with our audience about how you were able to just do this, rinse and repeat, and just crushing it. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad to call you as my partner.
Thank you for having me on. As always, Shinyi is amazing. So as you guys, you're following her, so you know that.
Thank you for watching.